This one is very special to me. Lula Naff. Mrs. Lula Clay Naff is responsible for a thriving half-century of the Ryman's history in an era when women rarely took the reins in business. She was tough, determined, shrewd, and capable. And by the end of her career, she would become known as America's first lady of theater management. Born in 1875 in Fall Branch, Tennessee, Lula found herself widowed at an early age with a young daughter to support. She quickly finished business school and took a job with the Johnson City Talent Agency as secretary. When the company relocated to Nashville in 1904, Lula moved with it. Before the age of 30, she was given the task of booking speaking engagements, concerts, and other attractions into the newly renamed Ryman Auditorium. When the company dissolved in 1914, she seized the opportunity to work directly with the Ryman. She took a bold risk and leased the entire building as an independent agent in an era when women didn't even have the right to vote. Let that sink in for a minute. Lula filled the pews night after night with the biggest names in music, theater, and entertainment. In 1920, the board of directors formally recognized her talent and dedication, hiring Lula to directly manage the space. Under Lula's leadership, everyone from Katharine Hepburn to Harry Houdini, Bob Hope, and the Ziegfeld Follies, and countless others played the Ryman. In 1943, she famously agreed to let the Grand Ole Opry put down roots in the auditorium, and the show filled her Saturday nights and the nation's airwaves with music and comedy for the rest of her career and beyond. Lula was named manager emeritus when she retired in 1955. She passed away in 1960 at the age of 85. I will always regret that I didn't get to meet her. But accepting on behalf of a historic woman in music industry is another woman who is also making history. Senior Vice President of Programming and Artist Relations for Opry Entertainment and General Manager of the Grand Ole Opry, 2015 Source Hall of Fame inductee, and I'm proud to say my boss lady, Sally Williams.
I have to say that I am almost as excited to be here celebrating Lula C. Naff as I was in 2015 when I was up here. I'm just curious, I can see most everyone. How many people in this room were aware of Lula C. Naff before the Source Awards announced that she was a recipient? So on behalf of the Ryman Auditorium, we're celebrating the 125th anniversary, and I want to say thank you to Source and to the Source Awards Committee for helping us spread the word on Lula C. Naff. I have been inspired by this woman since I learned about her, I think probably from Pam Matthews, who is out in the audience. And certainly all of us at the Ryman are guided by and inspired by Lula's legacy. And I sort of boil it down to three things. Number one, she was fearless. Just to recap what Jeannie said, she leased the Ryman Auditorium on her own and used her own money to promote shows at the Ryman Auditorium starting in 1914 before she had the right to vote. At that point, there were about 7 million women working in the United States, and about 60% of those women were domestic servants. Holy cow. She was courageous, she was fearless, but she was also smart and she was savvy. When the board made her an employee finally in 1920, there was a $15,000 debt that had been sort of rolling. She knocked the dead out in 2 years, and not once did she operate at a loss in all the years that she managed the Ryman Auditorium. She was, absolutely. She was fearless, she was courageous, she was smart, she was savvy, she was dedicated. She was dedicated to bringing Nashvillians what they wanted to see. She was dedicated to showing respect to the Ryman, which she held so dear. She would walk up and down the streets of Nashville telling the story, but she'd also walk up and down the streets of New York City telling the story, bringing people to Nashville. She was courageous and fearless and smart and savvy and loyal and dedicated. And what's really cool is I look out in this room and I look at the Source Awards wall and I see women who are fearless and courageous and smart and savvy and dedicated and loyal. And I thank the Source organization for connecting the dots from this amazing woman in 1904 to all these amazing women who we're honoring today and all the amazing women who are going to be making history for many, many years to come. I have one story about connecting the dots that I want to share. Lula, we really haven't been able to track down any heirs. She had a daughter who was adopted, and sadly, we couldn't make any connections to her. She was sort of mythological almost. And a couple of years ago, we brought together a bunch of women. Some of you in this room were with us that night. We brought some women together at the Ryman Auditorium to just commune, to get to know each other, to eat some good food from Cafe Lula, by the way, and just get to know each other. And we started the evening in the Soul of Nashville Theater, and for those of you who haven't seen Soul of Nashville, it's an immersive film experience that we put together that tells the story of the Ryman, and incidentally is narrated and hosted by an actress who plays Lula Naff. And we all got together in this room, and before we showed, I think it was before we showed the film, we went around and introduced ourselves and told a little bit of our background. And in the room that evening was Jo Walker Metter. And she was in the middle of the room, and when it came to her turn, of course, everyone in the room knew Jo Walker Metter. But being the fantastically graceful and wonderful woman that she was, she introduced herself and she gave a little bit of her background. And then nonchalantly she said, "I met Lula Naff once." And we all gasped. And I have to say that moment will continue to be one of my favorite moments, to finally have been able to connect this woman who had inspired me, but who was long before my time, with another woman who was undoubtedly one of the most courageous and fearless and smart and savvy and dedicated and loyal women that I ever met. That was a great moment. So on behalf of the Ryman Auditorium, thank you, Source, for acknowledging Lula Naff, as well as all of these other wonderful women.